Welcome everyone to the Wine Animal YouTube channel. I am joined today by not one, but two WA wine legends. Very young, just like myself. All right, you all know JJ here to my right, and we're here at Lamont at his establishment filming. But I've also got Ray Jordan here. I mean, wine critic, book author. I mean, I don't even know if there's enough titles to give you.
Dipsomaniac.
Yeah, I'm very, very honoured and humbled to be with. How many years of joint experience between the two of you in wine? That's my first question.
Just give me a second.
No.
We've had a lot of wine writers over the year here in Western Australia. Ray is clearly the most influential and brings the most impact from the customers. So to Western Australia and Western Australian wineries, Ray is a very valuable commodity.
How many years combined are we looking at here between the two of you?
I'm about 55 or 52 or something.
Yeah, I think I started in about 78, so it goes back a ways.
Can I say almost 100 years between the two of you?
Nice,
and then my couple of
Can we
years.
move on?
No, I think it's important for people to understand how much
Ray
experience
looks about 100 years old,
is in the room. Now, I'm going to be honest here. We've got 7 wines in front of us. And it's pretty well known that sparkling wine from Australia is not my go-to for sparkling, and not WA wine. I have a little bit of a thing with Edie Fix. It's not my preferred drink of choice, but that's okay. We're here to be educated. So we're going to look at 5 white sparklings and 2 rosés, we're going to call them. And I'm going to let the 2 gentlemen to either side of me talk to you about them. And we're starting with, what are we starting with? We're starting with the Mandoon.
It's probably worth putting these wines into some degree of context.
There we go.
I think before we start.
This is why we're here.
Because, you certainly are right. West Australian sparkling wine, it's not generally considered at the same level of perhaps some of the ones coming out of the eastern states, and they're certainly very good. Stuff out of Tassie, the Domains and all those sorts of things. But I think it can, in that scheme of things, it can be overlooked how good these wines are. And they've really started to come of age maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I'd reckon. One of the significant ones for me was the amount of work, one of the ones we're looking at today, that the guys at Satella did. Because they really said, this is a Swan Valley producer, but that fruit doesn't come from the Swan, it comes from Pemberton. And so they essentially looked and said, where are we going to get the best fruit? So we've got this tremendous fruit source way down south, and it's filtering into some of these wines. You've also got the fruits coming out of Carrydale, of course, with Edie Fix and that Mandoon, I think, gets it from there. But so the West Australian wines have really sort of come of age. The winemaking's more sophisticated. It's doing it the same way. And I think, there's a family link here, because my cousin, who was strongly involved in the setting up of Domaine Chandon years ago, he was a strong consultant for Satella, and he went and changed their whole way of doing wine. So I think what we've got here is a pretty good snapshot of where sparkling wine in the state's gone.
Okay, we need to go a step further if we can. So firstly, you've mentioned your cousin Tony Jordan, who was possibly the greatest technician in the Australian wine industry of his time, the most knowledgeable, the most effective. He was truly extraordinary. But I want to come back a step further, because the winemaker in the era that you were talking about at Satella worked under Ed Carr, ?
I think he did, yeah.
So Ed has an imprint on this too.
Yes.
Because one of the other wines, here, which is, I'll come back to it in a second. I have to think about. Nick Bowen at Felix also worked for Ed Carr for about 8 years. So Ed Carr inadvertently has had a serious impact on the West Australian sparkling wine industry as well as Tony Jordan. Yeah,
I think that's right. You've got 2 great, one more a technician, the other one a really, a great winemaker in his own right. Both technicians to a point. Yeah. And they've been responsible for some of the best wines made in this country with Bubbles.
Okay, so we're going to keep throwing information at you. Hope that's okay. So from there, Western Australian sparkling wines have not, over the years, been regarded as being marvellous. In the early 2000s, again with Ed Carr's help, Horton Wines won 2 Capital City Wine Show trophies for best sparkling wines, with wines that were produced and made here, then the base material sent to the eastern states, and Ed Carr, now or more recently at Arras, has made those. Then there was a huge gap for 15, I'll have to work it out, 12, 13 years, when no sparkling wines came to Western, no sparkling wine trophies on the Capital City Wine Circuit came to Western Australia. But in more recent times,
Punch me in.
Will you come on board and protect him from both of us?
I'm saving him.
So the Mandoon estate that we've got here, won the trophy at Perth last year for Best Sparkling Wine. Totally masked lineup, of course, where no one knows what's what. And a couple of years before that, the Satella from 2016 that Ray was referring to a few minutes ago had picked up the first trophy since Ed Carr's wine in the early 2000s for a Western Australian sparkling wine capital city trophy. Okay, let's go from there.
Certainly not going to challenge this guy when it comes to show.
Have you ever sat in a room or sat somewhere when you know the least amount of information out of anyone in the room? This is exactly how I feel right now, sitting between these two guys. But this is why we're here, right? To educate, right? And now we've got a few of these are vintaged and a few of these are non-vintage. And we're looking at 2016 for the Mandoon, right? Reserve sparkling, crafted with Chardonnay. So we're looking at 100% Chardonnay from Carradale, it says here, on lees for over 7 years. So I'm expecting, I've never tried, the only ones of these I've tried, I've tried the Jete, and I've tried the Edie Fix.
Yep.
I've tried both of these, but the other ones are all new to me. So looking at that, 7 years on lees, Chardonnay, I'm expecting it to be fresh, but also to have that like biscuity brioche, like that croissanty nuance about it is what I'm expecting.
That's it.
Right?
I don't need to say anything now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's got green apples on the nose. It's fresh, it's zingy, but it does have that, like, it sounds so cliche to say the croissanty, like butter croissant, but it does. It's like really what it is the easiest to refer it to.
This is actually the first time I've seen this wine. It's just terrific to see a wine. And Margaret River, Carradale, again, not a region or not a broad region that you normally associate with a sparkling wine, but we're going to see some of those today because Carradale going further south is that much cooler. And that then means you've got that longer, slower ripening, which is ideal for making sparkling wines.
So what are the famous, like if we're going to South Margaret River now, to Carradale, so further south, so what are some of the big famous producers down south that people would know that would make wine from that region as well? To say like where these grapes come from, also make wines of X, Y, and Z.
Well, I think a lot of them are getting fruit from down there. Some of them would be, Edie Fix. They go way down.
Further.
And that's Vas Felix's sparkling wine project. I'm not sure where John Fraser gets his, but I suspect it's down that way.
I don't think he's only referring to sparkling wine. So
even just a winery, even just a big name winery that is from Carradale, so people could put it on you know.
Well, you've got McHenry Honan's down that way.
Okay.
You've got Xanadu's picking fruit from there.
Stella pick up a lot of fruit from down there.
Yeah.
Just names that people would know because, like, for me, I've never heard of it. Right, I'll be honest about it. But I know Xanadu, so no one knows. And I've been to Xanadu, so I can picture where it's from.
And the wines stylistically from that southern part are definitely different from, say, going to Willie Abra, which is right in that dress circle of, that raw, awesome power. The elegance and style that you're getting out of, say, going further down into Carradale, and it's seen by these wines, they do extraordinarily well. They're some of the best wines we're making from down that way. So
longer ripening, cooler nights, retain that acidity and freshness.
Very important during 24 over here, which was, hot as 80s. And it just meant that some of the fruit coming from down there ultimately turned out pretty damn well. When we were all looking at going, this is going to be bloody awful for a lot of wines. But
when you say awful, you don't mean awful. You just mean not as.
A lot of fruit got dropped on the ground. Okay. You couldn't pick it.
Okay.
It was cooked. It was shriveled. It was there were some vineyards down there that just said, not going to do it, and from high profile. So it was as a region. That vintage was a lot of it. We were expecting it to be pretty crummy, but it actually turned out okay.
Because on the East Coast, like where all the cool kids are from, right?
Yeah.
On the East Coast, we always say that Margaret River just is blessed with this perfect vintage year after year after year after year. You got the ocean, you got the breeze.
Margaret River's blessed.
Yeah, Margaret River's blessed, right? The East Coast, forget about it. It either rained in, snowed in, or in a heat wave. But Margaret River but to hear that the 24 vintage was difficult and a lot of fruit was dropped and lost, puts it into a little bit of perspective in this.
Having said that, the other thing to recognise though, which is important because we're talking sparkling wines, the Chardonnay, of course, ripens early. So it was taken off generally before it got too hot. But it was still pretty warm in January. But these things were coming off almost in December. It was that early. But the Chardonnays that I've seen, both in the sparkling wines and in fact, a lot of the still wines are pretty bloody good. Yeah, so anyway,
okay, so
we digress.
We want to come at this from a slightly different angle as well. Firstly, since we've got a Victorian in between the two of us, we just want to say, Ray and I haven't discussed it, but I know he'll agree with me. So, firstly, we had a very, very articulate Eastern States person on his first discussion of the Mandoon estate. Thought he described it brilliantly. And so wonderful thing for an Eastern States person. Ray, I was also very impressed with the fact that he could count to 7. And he knew that there were 7 sparkling wines here. You reckon he's in trouble now? You wait till we get going in the show.
Oh, my God.
And now, secondly, with 2024, and we can't spend too much time on this because we've got other things to do, but so 2024 was so warm in Margaret River and so rain-free for 7 or 8 months that even the great timber, the great forest in Margaret River started to die. The edges of them all started to die back. Vanya Cullen took me 8 or 10 pictures over different days of huge patches of trees where they just died through lack of water for so long. But there's another saving factor on the 2024 very warm and very early vintage in West Australia, the earliest vintage to date so far in the growing period here over 50 years. And that is that the growing period from flowering to picking remained the same, because flowering also was very early, and so it had the 100-day, the required 100-day growing period for Chardonnays, not so much for the reds, but for Chardonnays, which validates the fact that, or perhaps excuses the fact that it could have been a problem, but the Chardonnays are coming up very, very well because they had that same length of time on the vine. Okay.
Albeit they are slightly more generous, and
of course.
I mean, you look at the new Vas Felix Haysbury. Again, just got a little bit more generosity now. I'm not sure whether Virginia's taking that stylistically into a new area or whether it's vintage specific. I'll be interested to see subsequent ones. But yeah, that's a good case. But still with that essential vibrancy which you're getting out of Margaret River.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that Vas Felix thing leads us in perfectly, right, to the 80 fix now, right? Like, so my group of friends, and especially my group of friends here in Perth, will know that it's a bit of a running joke with the 80 fix with me around here. And we sort of serve it blind. I actually told everyone I was bringing a ball of champagne for everybody, and then I think I poured this blind for everybody just to get a reaction out of it. So, but this is, again, Chardonnay.
Yeah.
100% Chardonnay. Non-vintage or vintage?
That's the
Vintage, so 2022 vintage,
yeah.
which we discussed earlier briefly, that you said that you much prefer personally the 22 over the 23 as being they're markedly different ones.
The 2023 is only just coming onto the market now, as I understand it, and perhaps it needs just a little bit more time in bottle. I love this wine. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Lovely sparkle, just lovely pearl, lovely mousse, lovely mouthfeel, amongst the very best. We should add here, if we can, and Ray will have strong thoughts on this because he knows a lot more about this than some of the things that I do. So we're talking about Vas Felix now. So Paul Holmes of Vas Felix, who took over the winery from his family, who've owned the winery since, I don't know when.
85, I think.
Okay.
Great, yeah.
And then, Paul has now decided to specialise also in sparkling wine. He's developed a whole new winery, whole new vineyard areas, dedicated totally to sparkling wines. We believe over here, and we put them into master lineups quite a bit, that they match many of the great wines and biggest names in the eastern states. You will have to make up your own minds as time goes on. But at the same time as that's been happening, or following a couple of years later, Jeff Birch and his family, Amy and Nat and Richard at Howard Park, with their vast resources, have also poured vast amounts of money into sparkling wines. They brought Nick Bowen over, who I mentioned before. Nick's father was a legend in West Australian winemaking. Then Nick worked with Ed Carr at Arras for about 8 years before coming back to West Australia. Ray and I were talking before we came on screen. He's doing marvellous things, not only with sparkling wines, which he's doing very well at, and but also with Cabernets, Chardonnays, and other varieties. Amongst the best, and I'll have to look at Ray to check to see what he thinks, but I think probably the best they've made to date. I think the Chardonnays and Cabernets, I think, are the best to date. But with the sparklings, just as an example of how well they're doing, just one example, one of the sparklings we're going to look at in a second has, from Howard Park, from the Jetté range, just picked up the trophy at the Wine Show of Western Australia for Best Sparkling Wine, and within a week of that, picked up at the Australian Sparkling Wine Championships this year, which was held in Hobart, picked up Best Sparkling Wine in a class which is normally dominated by the Tasmanians. Western Australia is starting to do well with sparklings. We'll watch this space with interest. Sorry,
taking over, aren't they? WA's taken over everything.
Well, in most
just taking over everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
With the 2.2% of the total price. Yeah, see, there you go. Remember, see, pay attention.
I think that the thing about 80 fix too is one of the things that, I mean, it was a bit of a it was a curious thing that they discovered this particular clone of Chardonnay in the south, which Virginia Wilcock, the chief winemaker with Vass, identified as not the same clone as what we're used to, like the Gingin clone in Western Australia. They identified it as a specifically Champagne clone. And it was from there that they started to propagate through that southern vineyard. So it was a deliberate approach to saying, hey, we've got something here. It makes different wine. It's suited to, the wines of Champagne. So it's been a key part in that whole story. And, I'm interested that it doesn't sit with, you're not a fan, because I think that's a beautiful wine.
Oh no, the wine itself is beautiful. It's beautifully well made. It has everything you want from a sparkling wine. It's just not to my taste, and that's all that it comes, and that's what it comes down to a lot of the time.
Yeah,
right.
And a lot of it is, isn't it? I mean, you taste the wine, say, I prefer this, I'd prefer that, but the wine's still good.
And that's where that's where we've had this discussion that I think a lot of people fall down when they're looking at wine or they're reviewing wine. Is they cannot see past their personal preference because they don't like it. It becomes the wine's not good or it's not great. But that is a great wine. It's just not stylistically to my preference. That's literally all it is.
Quoting Len Evans.
Quoting anybody. I'm quoting myself, the animal. But I mean, that's a great wine. But the Jete, which I just tried then as well, is also good.
We're jumping around a bit.
We're going this way.
I know. But the Jete's there, isn't it? Or are you looking at that one?
No, we've got both Jetes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got both Jetes. You got to keep this really straight and linear, otherwise we all get confused. So,
well, just while Ray's having a quick look at it, this one, the Vass Felix is fresh, vibrant, alive, wonderfully sparkly. As I said earlier, wonderful mousse. This one is fuller, more complex, different style without the life and freshness, but with the greater complexity, slightly broader, and more of a food wine than an aperitif, which perhaps the Vass Felix could be regarded as? Question mark?
I think that one is where what you'd expect to see in, a classically Champagne wine. I mean, that's what you'd expect. The structure, that complexity, that biscuity, savoury sort of thread running through it. Tremendous sort of. When I'm looking at sparkling wines, I'm always looking for that consistency through the palate, that mid palate, and which is why they sort of get a bit of that and a bit of that. They're trying to get it absolutely consistent, and I see that in that wine. It's been a while since I've looked at it, actually, so it's nice to see it's really stacking up well. It's not hard to see why it does well. So, Nick Bowen, he's just doing a great job for, and I agree with the reds and the whites. I think the new Abercrombie is clearly the best red ever made at Howard Park.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, haven't you? Oh, well. Yeah.
So we were talking about...
Yes, Satella. So it's an interesting thing that what happened a few years ago. I mean, Satella's a small producer doing some really neat things in the Swan Valley. It's a lovely place to visit, nice restaurant, all that sort of thing. They're making fairly traditional Swan Valley reds and whites. But they've then got a terrific vineyard down in Margaret that they were sourcing from. But then, I can't remember exactly when, but it'd probably be maybe 10, 15 years ago, they said they wanted to do something with sparkling. They engaged Tony Jordan from Domaine Chandon, who came over and really began a very strong, concerted campaign to build a sparkling wine house, if you like. And they went back to absolutely grassroots. And it was in the vineyard, the whole making process. And I can tell you now, Tony was a very tough taskmaster. He was absolutely meticulous.
Always was.
Absolutely. And so he went through, and if he didn't like it, it was gone. I mean, he really, and that sort of discipline that was introduced then allowed them to build, the house style that they've created over the years. And they make a number of different wines. Unbelievably, there's complexity in there. They leave plenty of time on lees. I'm not sure what that one's got, but it's considerable. And they really do build structure into the wine.
5 years.
5 years, yeah.
5 years, all hand-picked.
Yeah. So they've got other ones that are really late disgorged as well, and that adds another layer of complexity, I believe. So what they've done is said, okay, this area in that Pemberton Manjimup area can produce fruit that is perfect for sparkling wine. And what Tony used to say was this: The reason you don't want the fruit too ripe is you want a suggestion of ripeness without it being ripe, because that's what you can build the structure of sparkling wine into it. You don't want it too lean and, and pissy. So that's the last thing you want. But you do want something that really has that suggestion of fruit, which they can pick up. And, of course, the winemaking process will accentuate it anyway. So, look, I think it's been a revelation what they've been doing there. And it's great to see. You've got, a number of guys in this state now doing and paying really strong detail and attention to making these great wines.
And then on top of that, we do an enormous number of tastings over here. I've said to Breno before that I have nearly 300,000 tasting notes. In the last week, I've lined up a number of these wines, along with is it Marie Christina from Keller?
Yeah.
And they're $90 wine, also from about 2014 or 2016.
Yeah.
Thank you. Also from about 2014 or 2016, against many of these, $90 a bottle though, and none of these we haven't talked about price yet, absolutely marvellous. Best wine in the lineup, totally masked, but as I said, twice the price of some of these.
Well, these would be all under 50, would they not?
No, under 60.
Under 60,
okay.
I think, yeah.
So between 40 and 60, pretty much between there. I mean, I like the mouthfeel on that wine. I like the textural build. I think you can see what you say there. There's like the suggestion of the fruits really there, but it's all built around that. And it's all about that mid-palate weight, like because you're always going to get that bubble and that fizz when you put it on your tongue, and that's what people look for, right? Like to me, like the Edie Fix was a lot more like expressive. It's got more fizz, right? I'm going to break it down and make it really simple. It was fizzier, right? That has more textural weight.
Yeah, it's got there's layers of complexity in that middle palate, which I think is it really sets it apart, and that's what they've been built. That's the whole thing about building structure into these wines. It's how you compose them in the winery. You've got the fruit, then what you do with it, you're building layers of complexity, and I see that in that wine all the time. Always have.
So the two older and trophy-winning wines in this lineup are no longer available in West Australia. I don't know if there's distribution in the eastern states or not. And I don't want to say that they sent them down just because Breno was visiting town. I can't answer that. But we just have a couple of bottles up our sleeve that we slipped into the tasting today. And I reckon it's really worthwhile having a look at.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I just great to see these wines. I mean, they really are a tremendous snapshot of what's being done here. And of course, it is a snapshot. There are plenty of others being made. In fact, the next one we're going to look at.
Well, this is when I've heard the name Fraser Woods a few times. My good buddy Lee has mentioned this name to me.
Yeah.
Other people have mentioned this name to me.
John Fraser is the winemaker there. And by trade, he's an electrician.
We all start as tradies.
And he got in. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean,
no.
Make more money out of that than
that's very true. There's no money in wine. They keep telling me they're telling the truth.
That's right. So he got into wine, and then he's got this little place. He converted it, this humble old wooden cottage right next to Woodlands down south. You wouldn't know it was there because it's just a dirt road that goes off and
no signage.
But in there, he's making some of the best sparkling wine in the state, not just under his own label, Fraser Woods, and Locash, but he's also making wines for a whole bunch of people. He probably makes most of what was until maybe Edie Fix, but most of the sparkling wine coming out of Margaret River.
It would have been 12 or 13 different companies wineries that he was producing wine for. Quite astounding.
It is. And I mean, the wines are, they've always got complexity. They're handcrafted from beginning to end. I don't know about the corking, but, it's another task we can do without. But what they are, look, they're always good. He makes a number of different ones. He's got a rosé style. He even makes a sparkling red. That's a top.
Can leave that one in WA. You can leave that one over here.
What? Sparkling red?
I'm just kidding.
You need to be...
As long as it's not sparkling Cabernet, you can leave that one over here.
You need to be taught
That does not need to come to the East Coast, and you can quote me on that one.
You want to be very careful. My wife's grandfather was the champion of sparkling Cabernet in this state.
I know.
That's right.
I know.
Well, maybe that's a subject for another...
That's another subject.
Sparkling reds.
I'll sit over there and someone else can sit in this chair.
Okay, so with the Fraser Woods that we have here today, which typifies the styles that he's making, if you were looking at a range of champagnes, in them often wines like Charles Heidsieck are richer, more complex. They've got more reserve wines added into them. They're more strongly flavoured rather than being fresh, vibrant and alive. Roederer and Polar, that new, fresh, clean. Roederer are doing great stuff now. Truly wonderful stuff. But this is the other style. This is worked, complex, flavoursome, a marvellous pearl still, but totally different style to the other ones we've seen so far.
It's also got just enough sort of restraint and finesse, so it's not a big fat wine.
Correct. Sorry,
which
good
you
point.
can, which you can go down that
Yep.
path. This wine, I've got to say, this is one of the best, if not the best.
This is my favourite of the 5 that we've had.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of personal preference.
I'm not going to give any preferences because I've got to live in this state. I think
I almost do these days.
That's right.
I have a visa for here.
I think that one is
the right visa too.
Well, you do. Yeah.
A food wine as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
rather than aperitif.
Yeah. No, it's drinking really well. I'm delighted we've put that in the lineup.
Well, I mean, we just had to add an extra glass to make sure we could get 7 wines in here because it was always 6, but we just had to add 7 because we needed to hit 2 sparkling rosés, right? And people that know me know that rosé, or brosé as I call it, is sort of where I started in rosé. That's sort of that was my...
Do you love the rosé?
I love rosé, yeah. I love sparkling rosé. I love rosé champagne. I love rosé in general. One, they didn't get punched. I got a handshake. It's about the first time. You got some bruises too under there. That's why he's wearing a long shirt because of all the bruises from those, But we got Howard Park and Bass Felix again. So we got the Jet A and the Edie Fix here. So...
Okay, so while we're looking at that and thinking about that, we've mentioned Nick Bowen a couple of times and what he's doing down at Howard Park, and he didn't start, he's working on the Jeté range. In my opinion, and I'll let Ray speak for himself because I know he has strong thoughts on this. I believe that he's doing clearly the finest job they've done so far. The wines are marvellous. I think the best of them match what's coming out in the eastern states. At the biggest wine show in Western Australia, where more Western Australian wines enter than the Royal Perth Wine Show, at the wine show of Western Australia at Mount Barker, which has been going for 30 years.
It was last week.
No,
it was last week, wasn't it?
Yes,
might be
it was last week.
But in that, this wine picked up the rosé, picked up the best sparkling wine in the show, and at the Australian Sparkling Wine Championships, which this year, they're held annually, held in Hobart, perhaps last week as well, best rosé sparkling wine, as I mentioned before, beating the Tasmanians who usually dominate this class. So this is the one we're talking about.
This is to me, I would think this is quite a difficult style to make because it's more delicate, it's a finer style, but as soon as you've got that, the trap is then, it doesn't have any flavour, but that does. And so it's got a lovely balance. There's good lingering and persistent flavour, but it delivers it with that slightly delicate way on the palate especially, and beautifully perfumed aromas in there as well. Just starting to pick up a little bit of that secondary biscuity character, but that's more subliminal and reduced. But I just love that wine. It's just drinking beautifully.
Sorry.
No, please.
I prefer... But agreeing with what you were saying earlier, of all the ones we've had so far, despite the Capital City Wine Show trophy winners and that sort of stuff, I too am a great fan of sparkling rosés, whether they're champagne houses or the Australians. That touch of extra flavour, which is, as I agree with Ray on this wine, it's lovely, enormous length, lovely finish, lovely aftertaste, lovely wine, and it's just
problem is people and the wine buying public in general, they look at the colour and they're like, it's really light. So they're like, oh, it's missing flavour. It's just going to be light and fluffy and easy to drink. Yet if you went 5 shades darker, people would be like, oh, I'm not going to like that. It's going to be too rich and dense. Where, and that's, the general consumer, right? We look at that Provençal style of rosé and that light colour, but the Provençal rosés aren't lacking flavour and depth.
Yeah.
Right? They find other ways to bring that in.
Did you know where rosé really started to accelerate as a popular drink? It was in Chicago in the 30s and became the drink of the gangsters.
No, I had no idea. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's why I like it so much.
Yeah.
I warned you
I think
about
they
this
play
bloody
off a break.
Victorians.
Yeah, I don't think I'd last too long as a gangster in Chicago. I think
I would have loved you.
They would have loved it.
yeah, exactly. That's the
The one they
problem.
wanted. They didn't care as long as it was pink and
Yep.
So that's that really accelerated.
That's a beautiful one.
It is nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful one.
So, if you live in the wine world and you do a lot of things in it, and we run restaurants and wine stores and we just do tastings all the time, I see the world's great wines regularly, almost on a weekly basis, many of the world's great wines. I would drink each of these top final 2 rosés at any time and love them and appreciate them. I reckon they're marvellous wines, and I do, with respect to the wines we've already seen because they're very good. I love these rosés, each of them in turn.
Yeah, I'm a great fan of rosé sparkles. I think there's almost a deliciousness about them. I just love them. I can sit there and glug them, and I'm not thinking too much. And,
it's easy to drink.
some of them are pretty complex, but I just think, and that last one's got obviously more generosity. A bit more perhaps red wine's been added in there, but it's just picked it up. But it's not big and fat. Again, there's an elegance about it, and it's a nice way to finish that magnificent 7.
Well, the only thing I'd add is that I could have either of those two watching Collingwood in the grand final in 2026, just sitting there on my own.
I'm still watching replays of 18. 18 you lost, didn't you? Yeah. No.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, no, I'm still watching replays of that. That's all I'm going to be doing for the next 20 years.
But it's been absolutely educational for me, and enjoyable to be sitting between these two industry icons and legends, especially over here in WA. I don't think they get enough recognition over on the East Coast. I mean, I'm over there spruiking them, and I think the last time I saw you was on the East Coast, actually. Yep. And I'm honoured to have both of you, so I thank you both for your time. I know you've got a book coming out very shortly, so you need to get proofreading. How many pages?
Oh, I've got about 100 to proof today, but the book's going to be about 250 pages. I think it's I can never remember, 26th or 27th book I've done, West Australian wine, along with a couple on Margaret River and so forth. So I think I'm pretty excited about this one.
We need to go a step further. The name of the book is?
WA Wine Review 2026.
And that's coming out?
It should be out in the second week in November.
Okay, so for Western Australia, every year when Ray does this, because he's been doing it for many years, and I said he's the most influential wine writer in the West, it means a great deal to us. It helps retailers enormously because we can use his third-party endorsements to let our customers know what Ray thinks, and they value that. So it's a very, very serious thing for Western Australian wine people. If you're in an eastern state that you can track down, it's worthwhile getting because it gives you a great handle on Western Australia across the board.
Well, we've got it. It's also you can buy a PDF, and that's less than $20. So that's a complete book. And
$20.
Yeah, PDF.
Okay. Oh,
that's
wow.
soft. That's a soft copy, Jay.
I had no idea.
The hard copy.
You can listen to it while I travel.
Oh, so the hard copy will be
$39.95.
Okay, it's worthwhile grabbing. Thanks.
So a massive thank you to Ray, firstly, and to JJ, of course, and to everybody watching. Thank you. I hope you got some insight into WA sparkling and Australian sparkling in general, and just don't overlook it. Give it a go. You're looking at less than $60. So, and on special, you're probably looking at less than 50 for some of them. So,
and they are good ones.
And they are good ones, correct. So thank you very much for watching, and the Wine Animal and the two legends here. We are out.